Hello to the League of Ordinary Gentlemen. Week 2 is in the books. We're getting ready to recap. I know that there were some questions that I'm going to also be answering. Then we'll talk about each matchup. I do want to provide y'all an update because I talked about how last year I won my league and I win at least every other year. I do some self-pats on the back. So I wanted to be honest, I'm 0-2. I'll share my team just so you know my biases, because I think my team's pretty still. I mean, I have no concerns. Third highest points this week, lost the highest points in the league. My team, Lamar Jackson at quarterback. In my opinion, a top 3 quarterback this year in fantasy. I wouldn't be shocked if he finished QB2. Even QB1 wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. My wide receivers are pretty sick. They're Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, and Allen Robinson. I love that trio. Running back Saquon, who I think season begins week 3. And I knew that when I drafted him because I knew this 2 games in 5 days thing. So feel good about starting week 3 in his workload with my boy DeAndre Swift, who I'm very high on this year, and Elijah Mitchell. And then my tight end's Kyle Pitts. So, I mean, listen, that's a playoff team. So I just wanted you to know that even when you start 0-2, for these teams that started 0-2, as long as you have faith that your team has that potential, you're going to make it. Or you might, but I know I'm going to make it. I'll keep you guys updated how I win every other game from here on out. Okay, let's start with the questions. So, how many league reviews am I doing this season? I'm actually only doing 3. I did a ton of draft recaps. For some reason, everyone is reaching out for just draft recaps this year. So, did a lot of that, but only 3, including my league, which I don't even do every week. So I'm saying actually 2 full-time ones. I also this year offered to help co-manage or draft 4 teams, and I had a few teams reach out. I'm doing most of them I'm doing half of it for charity, and then there's one league that I just offered for, oh my gosh, so annoying. So the league that I would get paid if they won, first of all, they offered to pay me up front. I'm like, it's just more fun, even though it's going to be less money if we just do split the winnings or give me a portion of the winnings. But they traded, I guess now it's not as awful, but they traded Clyde Edwards-Helaire straight up for Russell Wilson because they don't know anything about fantasy football. And Clyde was our early 3rd round pick, I think, in that league. And Russell Wilson was drafted in like the 6th or 7th round just because QB is so deep. I was so annoyed with this guy. But Clyde's been awful, so whatever. I was annoyed because he said, you do all the trades, I won't even talk about it. Then he asked me the day before, this guy wants to trade Diggs and send me this ridiculous offer someone sent him. I'm like, don't do it. Then he just made the trade without even letting me know. I'm like, why would you do it for a quarterback? We already have Justin Herbert, who, you know what, is underperforming a bit this year. So maybe I'm the one who doesn't know anything. No, I mean, you can't trade a starting RB for a quarterback, but I guess it's working okay. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing draft recaps, full league recaps, which I guess it's only 2 now. And then I'm helping co-manage a few teams. Okay, that is that. What kind of waiver system do I prefer? I'm so used to the just rolling waiver. If you use your waiver, you go to the end. I actually, though, think Fab is the best because that's probably the most strategic. So I think if I were to start a league today, that's what I would do. But I also do like the idea of there's a lot of strategy when you have the rolling waiver system because like I'm at 8 right now, and there's years where I wait to get to 1, and then it takes me like 8 weeks, and I miss out on so many guys that I could have gotten using my waiver. And there's people who stay at 1 until they get a home run hitter, and they miss out on all these also decent guys, and they never get that home run hitter. So I like this system. I was number 3. I got Elijah Mitchell last week, who I still really like a ton. I'm at 8 this week. I think I'm going to do the strategy of just continuing to pick up guys and not waiting to get to 1 because it just takes too long. So the player on the bench piece, the starting Thursday night, and it's fair if the system allows it. Yahoo allows it. I think it's a complete cheat code. I don't think it should be allowed because it's if you're on top of it, it's so easy. You just have so many options for guys. If you just keep the 2 bottom parts of your bench, like transitional guys who could come in and out, you could always pick up guys for Monday night games, Thursday night games, and get these lottery backup running back tickets for completely for free. So I don't think it's totally fair, but if the system allows it, then it's fair. Everyone has the same opportunity. So yeah, I mean, I do it because my league allows it, but it's kind of dumb. What do I think of Superflex? Superflex is solid. I mean, that's just a preference thing. There's no one that's better than the other. I understand the argument of like it enables quarterbacks to be more important, and it is the most important position in real football, so it aligns those two closer. I personally am so used to traditional format, I wouldn't want to do Superflex, but that's just a preference thing. And then DraftKings, I don't do DraftKings. I'm too into the season long thing. I think there's just so much more strategy there. And it's more fun, and I'm very wary of. My dad grew up, and like two of his best friends became gambling addicts and completely lost everything. So my dad always was like, just make sure not to gamble too much. So I try not to gamble too much, because if you know me, if I get on DraftKings, that's gonna get ugly. I'm gonna be going $100 every day. I'll be going Canadian Football League probably. So yeah, that's the answers there. So let's talk about the recap. I took some time there. I'll do a little bit quicker of a recap, but we'll still get some time here. So let's start with the first matchup, and that is Glory Hole versus Professor S. So Glory Hole is a team I was, of course, pretty high on, and while Professor S was a team I was very high on, they both, I believe, were A-minuses after the draft. Glory Hole really trying to make a case for top team in the league. I'm okay with the wrong call on Professor S at this point, although I still think it's a playoff team because Glory Hole is thriving. And by the way, this win where you put up 179 was with Dak only getting 7 and Miles Sanders having a off game, getting you only 6.9. So there's obviously a ton to be super high on with this team. Aaron Jones being the main thing. We all knew. I mean, we said don't worry after week 1. It was a no-brainer. Makes my job too easy if all I need to do is say don't worry about Aaron Jones or a guy on that offense. Like Devontae as well. So I think as far as this team goes, I talked about how well-rounded it is. I do want to mention Justin Jefferson. I think the 10 targets were a massive confidence booster for me. I mean, I've been high on him. I traded for him after week 1. After all, so I, of course, was high on him. But Justin Jefferson getting 10 targets really does reiterate to me, even though Thielen has been very active as well, that Jefferson is going to be the guy on this offense. Thielen may lead in touchdowns, but I think Justin Jefferson's headed to another high yardage year. I think the best is definitely yet to come for him. So very happy with him. McLaurin also, you have to be very happy with that performance. DJ Moore, you have to be very happy with that performance. I'm a little bit less high on DJ Moore than those other receivers, but that's just a great receiving group there. Miles Sanders, I am not concerned. They're giving him touches. The game script wasn't ideal for him. It was a good defense he was playing against. So I think I just need to keep reiterating that this team is going to be able to deliver even on weeks where they have off performances from a couple guys like you saw this week. It's just so well-rounded. You're not going to have any off weeks where you're definitely no 100 or less weeks. I think you're going to be averaging 150 to 160 the rest of this season. Professor S, a team I'm of course high on, and I still am high on them. I think a lot of the shortcomings you may have to point towards some of the guys lower on this depth chart, but I'm talking Antonio Gibson this week, 9.3. I think Antonio Gibson's going to give you a ton more. McKinnon really stealing a lot of action from Gibson. A lot of people are wondering if that's going to be permanent. I'd say no. I mean, in the same way that after week 1, everyone was saying Gibson's the entire backfield, that wasn't realistic, but also saying McKinnon's going to come even close to taking Gibson also isn't realistic. So for Professor S, I mean, this team is good. I think I'm a little bit higher on your team than I was last week when I wanted to demote you from that A-, because Julio really showing that he might be a top receiver still. I mean, they robbed him of a touchdown. He still got you 23.8. So that's unbelievably exciting. D-Hop continuing to perform for you. AB is going to perform for you. So the only guy on this entire roster that I'm more down on and think you should start considering a Tyson Williams over him is our boy, my JETS team's Corey Davis. I am high on Corey Davis this year still, but Zach Wilson, it's just too concerning. It's too concerning the way he's playing. I would wait a little bit before going Corey Davis again. But then again, he is our best receiver. He's the only fantasy reliable guy on that offense, in my opinion. So I wouldn't be upset with you continuing to start him. He's going to get touchdowns, and he's going to get yards. He's going to be a good receiver. But the question is if it's going to be worth starting over a guy like Tyson early on in the season before Zach Wilson really shows you consistency. So I guess we'll see. But the Jets will be playing from behind, so it's going to be a good option. Pain Train over the Prophet was our next game, 127.72 to 119. The Prophet coming close because Pain Train didn't really put up a stellar performance. As I mentioned, Herbert being a little underwhelming. His stats don't completely tell the story because I think he's a really good quarterback, but fantasy, it's a little bit disappointing. Derrick Henry's the reason for the win, getting 40-something% of your total points. So you got to give him a hug after that one. You got bad performances out of two of my favorite guys on this team, Amari Cooper and Joe Mixon. Another easy, don't worry about them. Cooper did get banged up, but I think he's fine. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm not going to say don't worry about him, but I will say that he is on too good of an offense and with absolutely no depth behind him for you to expect 2.6 to be happening again. I think Clyde is lock-in RB2 right now, 100% startable. I think it wouldn't bode well for you to panic on him right now. He's going to get his touchdowns. Jarvis Landry's injured, so when you look towards your bench, who's going to be plugging in, it's a pretty easy call as far as you have options. I guess deciding between Sutton and Hollywood might not be super easy. I think at this point it could go either way. I'm more excited about Hollywood, but Sutton is a more talented wide receiver, and it's with 12 targets. I mean, it's hard not to start him next week. There's honestly cases to start both of them, but I do like the rest of your team that I would not be starting both of them. That wouldn't be the decision I made. So, yeah, it's a lot of good things for Pain Train going to 2-0. Team the Prophet going to 0-2. Everyone's asking me, Rick, do you want a dun chain this early in week 2? Is it too early? Is it disrespectful to the dun chain to give a dun chain to someone when there's still so much potential, so much they could do? I'm respecting the dun chain this year more than ever. I will say I dun chained probably 15 teams last year in all the recaps I was doing before halfway through the season, let's say. And all of them didn't make the playoffs. So I could dun chain. But I will not dun chain the Prophet. And this is because there are too many assets on this team to disregard. And by too many, I don't mean the number. I mean the quality, actually. Mahomes could be traded for another very serviceable quarterback and probably an RB2 wide receiver, too. There might be someone who's willing with depth to give you a low-end RB1 wide receiver one. That would change this team entirely. And Saquon's coming back. You know how I feel about Saquon. The season starts this week. I still think redraft starting this week, I view Saquon as a late first, early second round value. Most people wouldn't say that. I think he's fallen way too hard for most people. I knew the first 2 weeks would be rough. I really think with the volume he's getting, there's concerns with the O-line, sure, but he got more volume. He looks pretty good. He could look better, but he looks pretty good, and his talent's there. I think it's just going to continue going up for him. So with that being said, I will not dun chain you this week, but I am scheduling the ceremony for next Tuesday, at this exact time, where I do expect to be providing a dun chain unless I see some strategy from the Prophet to show some hope that there is potential with this team, whether it be a nice pickup, whether it be a nice trade, or whether it be letting Saquon ride it out, get you 20 points next week, and then we're talking a little bit different about this team. I want a dun chain, but I won't. That's all I'll say about this team. Sons of Chaos versus El Captain. Sons of Chaos with the win, 126-108. This is the team that I want to say I am in danger of being wrong about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I never said they'd be bad, but I didn't like the options, especially the wide receiver. Two things I didn't like. The wide receiver options, because it's going to change too much week over week, which I still feel. And Tom Brady, I didn't think would finish in a top 8 position. I thought he was a bottom end QB1 high. Yeah. And I thought he was overdrafted. At this point, it looks like there's a chance that I'm wrong, but when I think I'm wrong and get insecure about a take, I double down. And I will now guarantee that Sons of Chaos will lose this season, whether it be in the playoffs or in a playoff hunt, because of Tom Brady putting up a duck of a game and Gronk going along with it. And if you start Fournette going along with it, the Bucs will cost you this season. Unpopular take, Bucs are on fire. They look like a great team. Again, if I were to take over-under on wins for the Bucs, I would take the over. But in fantasy, there's too much going on, and I just can't rely on such an old quarterback. My gut is that the Bucs will cost you. With that being said, even with all that, you have a great team. I think J-Rob's at the lowest value he'll be all season. I think David Montgomery's at the lowest value he'll be all season. I think Tyreek had the worst game he's going to have all season. I think Woods is at the lowest value he's going to have all season. So, I mean, this team's only going up and you're already 2-0. If you're Sons of Chaos, you have to be planning for the playoffs already, canceling any plans you had during the playoffs. But is this a contender? Potentially. But my prediction, Bucks are going to cost you. L Captain, 0-2. Man, my prediction for first round bust this year was Jonathan Taylor. So part of me is feeling a little bit happy that one's looking at least kind of right. Just because there's so much going on. But Jonathan Taylor's still an easy start. I still probably make him a low-end RB1, high-end RB2. It's just the involvement of the other running backs are too concerning. Matt got involved this week. It's too concerning. Mike Davis, same thing. Losing action to Cordarrelle Patterson. I love Devontae. I love CD. I think Pitts also, there's a lot of hope with what Pitts showed you this week. But with all that being said, at 0-2, this team's in a tough spot. I mean, easily has talent to dig out of it. I don't know what I would do if I was this team. I think I would try and, first, oh my gosh. I didn't even catch this on the review. My head hurts. He benched Lamar Jackson for Jameis Winston. This is why we don't overreact to week 1. I'm pissed. This is why we don't overreact to week 1. Lamar Jackson's my quarterback, so I'm emotional. I'm sorry. The upside for Lamar Jackson is the highest of any quarterback in the history of fantasy football. This guy could get you points even if he has an absolute awful football game. Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston. How do you start him over Lamar Jackson? That is a well-deserved loss. I am now mad at El Captain. I'm going to be rooting against El Captain for the rest of the season. There's a lot of talent here. Now that I know that you have Lamar as your starting quarterback, I absolutely believe you could dig out of this hole. But I cannot root for you until you pay your respects to Lamar Jackson. I want to see a nickname next week for Lamar Jackson in this league. I want him to be given that honor. Someone had a really good nickname for Eckler. I want Lamar to have a nickname. I want you to change your team name to being about Lamar Jackson. When guys are on my fantasy team, I get very, very. If you hurt them, it's like dating my daughter and dumping her or something. It hurts my feelings. Okay. With that being said, obviously that was an overreaction, but Lamar Jackson's a must start. So that changes the whole outside of your team. I also think Singletary is a must start for you as well at this point. So he got Vulture 2 touchdowns from Zach Moss, and he still had a great game. And Zach Moss is not going to be the same Zach Moss as last year. Singletary's the guy. All right, next, 2 more matchups. This one's maybe the longest recap I've ever done for you guys. TBD over the Chairman, 169 to 152. Both teams doing well. This is the TBD is the Eckler name. For TBD, like this team a lot. Chargers look good, so that Eckler Keenan stack is looking great. Allen Robinson, the only guy I want to talk about because it's only uphill for Allen Robinson. Again, he's on my team, so I'm biased. Do not worry. He's cute, quarterback proof. It doesn't matter who his quarterback is. Continue riding him. If I see Allen Robinson on the bench, I'm going to lose my mind next week. Ride him, and he will take care of you. Robbie Anderson, I think there's a case now to bench him. There's now 3 receivers in that offense. I thought it would just be Robbie and DJ Moore, but what's his name? Terrence Marshall or something is getting involved also. I think Robbie's still startable for sure. 6 targets for Robbie is actually not awful because he's going to get deep plays. It's going to give him opportunities. You want more, but 6 isn't awful. So I wouldn't panic just yet and bench him. Looking on your bench, Nyheim Hines is a startable guy, but I don't love him. Josh Jacobs, if he's healthy, I start, of course. If he's a little bit banged up and limited, I would be maybe a little bit hesitant. Callaway being the disappointing bench stats of the season. Everyone thought he'd be fantastic. He was not. I would start considering benching him, maybe give him one more week. Dropping him, maybe give him one more week. Team the Chairman, for some reason, I'm higher on your team this week than I was TBD. I'm actually kind of surprised you won this game, but I guess for TBD, you just got to look at Kelsey getting you 30 points. And Waller only getting you 11. That was the difference in this game, actually. That's the exact difference in points. You would have won by 1 absent the tight end. So look at the rest of your team. I actually like them more this week and the matchups that they had. Diggs still a little bit disappointing. Only 4 catches for 60 yards. He did get in the end zone, though. So, I mean, I think Diggs is going to be fantastic. Mike Evans is the guy that I mentioned as being on that Bucs offense. I still think he's going to finish 3rd in fantasy points. And I know that's now an unpopular take, especially after this week, but it's just how I feel. I mean, he's touchdown dependent from where I'm sitting to be a good fantasy receiver. I don't love Mike Evans. So we'll see where that goes, because that's part of the take that I'm most in danger of getting wrong now. Mike Williams, though, he's looking good. He's looking absolutely serviceable right now, like a reliable every week starter. My throat hurts. I'm going to take a drink of water. 20-minute videos always get me. Okay. Live in La Vida Loda lost to Crucifier. I will say my rankings, outside of El Professor, who I still think is going to turn around, my rankings are looking pretty good. Crucifier, another team I was high on, beating Team La Vida Loca. Cup and Lockett for Crucifier. I mean, come on. That's unfair. Those two guys are fantastic. Those were just great draft picks by you. I mean, to think that the other talent you have around them, like Ridley and Metcalf, also at receiver, it's insane. That's the best receiver group in the league. And by the way, that running back group, Cook and Carson, not too shabby. I do have an issue benching A-Rod for Stafford. That could have cost you this week. It didn't, but man. By the way, your depth, Jamal, Chase Edmonds, this team is so nice. Wow. Oh my gosh. This guy knows fantasy. How is he not in the main league last year? Or she. I always say he. And it always ends up being a he, so I haven't been wrong yet. But when I am, I'm going to get canceled for it. So he or she. Or they. Okay, we're not going to get into that. So Cooper, Kupp, and Lockett, I think, will continue to sustain their performance. Although, sorry, not sustain. Be wide receiver one. I mean, the numbers they're getting are ridiculous. They're not going to sustain that. Although I do think there's going to be an appetite. This is complete gut, no football knowledge. But I think there's going to be appetite to involve Metcalf and Woods more. I do think that there's going to be regression with Kupp and Lockett, just reasonably so. But I don't think that's awful. I think defenses have to start planning now more so for Kupp and Lockett. So I think getting attention to the other guy. The other two guys are so... I think Robert Woods is an incredible receiver. I think Metcalf obviously is an incredible receiver. So they're going to be getting attention. The question is, can they keep our wide receiver one numbers going when those guys are going? And I say the answer is yes. And you have Metcalf. So Crucifier, my gosh. If you're Crucifier, you have to also be blocking out the playoffs and canceling any other plans you might have had. Live in La Vida Loda, Yoda, 1-1. So you get some of the love with the Russell Wilson points, but Kamara is being very disappointing. Kamara still would be, if in a redraft for me, a top 3 pick. Again, probably unpopular. I think if they were to rank him, it'd probably be closer to 5-6. But I despite 8 carries, wow. 8 carries for 5 yards? I knew he had 8 carries. 5 yards. I'm double checking this. 5 yards. Wow. Okay, I didn't watch the game, so I won't say 100%, but I'm not concerned about Kamara. He's still their main guy. He's still, in my opinion, the most talented running back in the NFL, and I will hold true on that because I watched that 6 touchdown game from last year every single day because that won me the championship last year. I absolutely love Kamara. I don't think there's any worry about that. I think if Kamara performs, this team is a playoff contending team for sure because I love Najee as well. Thielen's performing well. You already know the deal. Cooks was a great value pick. So, yeah, I think a lot of this does come down to Kamara being Kamara because that's what this team depends on. You have a lot of talent, but there's a lot of talent on other teams as well, especially in a 10-team league. So you need your top guys to perform. So a lot of this is on Kamara. I will say Miami kicker is not serviceable anymore. That offense is way too questionable. I think he needs to be released. I know he was great last year, but I think it's just time. And then depth is my only other concern. I mean, you don't want to have to start Claypool from my perspective. So when you look at your bench, I just do not like this depth at all. I think it's probably the worst depth in the league. Galladay being the only guy that at least has the upside, but I still don't like that offense, that passing offense. There's many options. Shepard's a better option. So with all that being said, I think there's a lot of work to do for Team Live in La Vida Yoda. It's a good team. It's a very good team. You could beat any team in this league. But as far as sustained success, I don't see it right now, especially when buys start hitting. I don't see this team as a threat to win it all, despite a lot of talent being on this team. Okay, 24 minutes. I am shocked. That it lasted that long. But best of luck week 3, everyone. I look forward to chatting soon. Bye.